All right, so we've taken a look at level 1 encryption, which is basically just storing the password as plain text in our database. So maybe it'll be a little bit difficult for people to get access to our server and access our database. At least you can't just simply right click on a website to view page source and be able to see it in the HTML. At least it's stored at server level. But that's not really good enough. So let's go ahead and see what we can do to improve the security for our users on our website. So let's increase to level 2 authentication. And level 2 authentication involves the use of encryption. So what exactly is encryption? Well, basically, all it is just scrambling something so that people can't tell what the original was unless they were in on the secret and they knew how to unscramble it. This is exactly the same as if you and your friend were sending each other secret messages and you had a key to encode the message that you both knew so that you could decode the message. Now, on a bigger scale, if you've ever watched The Imitation Game or read about the Enigma machine, well, that is basically a form of encryption. And the Enigma machine, if you don't know, is just simply a machine that was used during World War II. When the Germans would send each other messages, they would use the machine to encrypt those messages so that when the messages are intercepted, say over the radio, unless you had the same Enigma machine and you knew what the decoding key was or what the settings were for the machine, then you wouldn't be able to tell what it is that they were trying to communicate with each other. If you're interested, I really recommend watching 2 videos that were done by Numberphile on YouTube. And I've linked to it in the course resources list, but it explains the Enigma machine and it talks about the flaw in the Enigma machine that led Alan Turing and other people at Bletchley Park to be able to crack the code and create what was very much a specialized computer to be able to decode those messages and helped the Allies win the war. And if you ever visit London, be sure to go and check out Bletchley Park, and they have a computer museum next to it as well, which is super fascinating. Anyways, I digress. So back to ciphers and encryption. One of the earliest ways of encrypting messages that we know about is the Caesar cipher. And this comes from Julius Caesar, who was one of the generals in the Roman Empire. And what he did is he would send messages to his generals and he would encrypt it. So if his messenger got murdered along the way, then his messages would be kept secret. And this is one of the simplest forms of encryption we know about. And it's very simple. Let's say we have the alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All that the Caesar cipher does, it's a letter substitution cipher. And the key for the cipher is the number of letters that you would shift by. So if you knew what the shift pattern was, then you could really quickly decipher the message. So if we were to encrypt the word hello, there's a really neat tool online that can help us do that. It's called crypty.com and it's got 2 I's at the end. And you can basically choose the kind of cipher or encryption that you want to use. And then you can specify the shift. And we're going to say a shift of 3, let's say. So if my text was hello, then it becomes shifted into core. And to an unknowing person and a non-cryptographer, it can be quite difficult to see at a glance what exactly this is trying to say. Now, in modern days and with modern cryptography, this is overly simplistic and it's very, very easy to crack. But there are other forms of encryption which are a little bit more complicated and it involves a lot more maths to make it more time consuming for somebody to crack. But essentially, all encryption works exactly the same way. You have a way of scrambling your message and it requires a key to be able to unscramble that message. All right, so now it's time to level up to the next level of security. And in this lesson, we're going to cover something called hashing. Now, previously, we've already looked at encryption. So taking the user's password and securing it using an encryption key, and then using a particular cipher method, be it a Caesar cipher or the Enigma cipher. No matter which way we chose, we always had a password, a key, and we ended up with some ciphertext, which will make it hard for people to be able to immediately guess what our user's password is. So for example, if we took a password like QWERTY and we used the Caesar cipher method and we decided to shift it by 1, then our encryption key is the number 1. And that creates the ciphertext where every single letter is shifted up by 1. Now, in order to decrypt this, all you have to do, as long as you know what the key is, then you can simply shift all of the ciphertext down by 1 and you end up with the original password. Now, the Caesar cipher is a very, very weak encryption method. It's incredibly easy to figure out what the original text was, even if you didn't have a key. And just to illustrate what bad things can happen when you have a weak encryption system, I'm going to tell you a story from history that tells us why we should not be using a weak encryption system. So, back in the 1500s, on this island that we now call the United Kingdom, there used to be 2 large areas. One was Scotland and the other was England. And they were ruled over by 2 queens. Scotland was ruled by Mary, Queen of Scots, who was a Catholic, and England was ruled over by Queen Elizabeth I. Now, these 2 ladies between them controlled the land that we now call the UK, but they each wanted to have more power and more land. So, what did they do? Well, Mary, Queen of Scots, who ruled over Scotland, decided to plot with her friend Lord Babington to try and assassinate Queen Elizabeth. That way, she would be the legitimate heir to both the English and Scottish throne, and it was kind of a Game of Thrones kind of situation going on back then. But in order to mobilize their forces or try to come up with